The announcement from Bellows, members of the Maine Republican Party are now calling for her to step down from her role as Secretary of State. As the Secretary, she's responsible for managing elections here in Maine. The chairman of the Maine GOP says no aspect of the 2026 election should be under Bellows' authority while her name is on the ballot.
She needs to step aside and let her office, which controls elections, the voter list, the voter rolls, voter ID, coming up as well. She needs to step aside and campaign as a Democrat for governor and do that. That is her new job, and she needs to step aside.
Bellows was quick to respond to the comments from the Republican Party, explaining there is no precedent for her to step down as Secretary of State during a gubernatorial campaign. She cited former Maine Secretary of State Charlie Summers as the most recent example of this. Summers ran in the 2012 U.S. Senate election while still holding his position.
The most recent Secretary of State to run for office while Secretary was Republican Secretary of State Charlie Summers. He didn't step down. Instead, he had wonderful deputies ensuring the objectivity of our elections. I will not step down. I'll do my work as Secretary of State, just like every Secretary of State here in Maine and across the country who's run for higher office.
In other news, a Penobscot County man is out on bail after being arrested over the weekend for violating the terms of his release. This marks the third time he has been arrested and released on bail for bail violations. Our Alex Schley tells us officials say this case highlights a bigger problem plaguing the justice system.
The state's perspective was that he should have been held without bail pending a hearing here because this is continuing to happen.
On Tuesday, David McKenzie was released on a $1,000 bail after being arrested a second time for violating his bail conditions.
He's already been convicted. He's already violated it, been found in violation of his bail.
McKenzie's legal trouble dates back to July 2023, when he was arrested and later convicted for aggravated operating under the influence, leaving the scene of an accident causing serious bodily injury or death, and other charges after hitting an 86-year-old man in Brewer with his car. Last fall, he appealed the sentence and was released on post-conviction bail, which he allegedly subsequently violated, leading to his arrest in December.
A judge found that he had in fact violated his post-conviction bail, but allowed him to remain out after converting the curfew to a house arrest.
Last week, Holden police received a tip that McKenzie was once again violating his bail conditions. After investigating, police arrested him.
He was released yet again on a $1,000 cash bail on Tuesday.
Holden Police Lieutenant Andrew Whitehouse says it's a frustrating cycle.
What are we doing this for? You know, if they're just going to get turned around and released, you know, we get it. Again, you have a constitutional right to bail. 100% understand that. But when you're violating it over and over and over again, at what point do you go to jail and stay there until your case is resolved?
State prosecutors say they share that frustration.
We certainly argued that bail was not appropriate in this case, given the multiplicity of charges, the post-conviction posture of one of his cases, where he's already been found guilty.
We spoke with McKenzie, who declined to comment on camera. In Holden, I'm Alex Schley for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
A man arrested after shots were fired at busy streets in Lincoln has been indicted by the Penobscot County Grand Jury. Interim Police Chief Mark Leonard says that officers were called to Spring Street in February of last year. When they arrived, they found that 23-year-old Christopher Bean outside and arrested him. Leonard says Bean had loaded a handgun on him, and actually admitted to firing shots from an upstairs window because of severe tooth pain and stress. He was indicted on a number of charges, including aggravated criminal mischief. A Maine Maritime Academy student allegedly involved in a string of convenience store robberies was also indicted. According to police, Scott Dorn's first alleged robbery was at the Irving gas station in Bangor in January. Less than a week later, police say he allegedly held up the Big Apple on State Street in Bangor before going back to the Irving on Broadway that same night. His last alleged robbery was at the Circle K on Broadway in Bangor. Scott Dorn was indicted on 4 counts of robbery and criminal threatening with a dangerous weapon.
Pro-life supporters gathered in Augusta yesterday for their Hands at the Capitol event. Each state is now responsible for abortion-related issues. Organizers say Hands at the Capitol is a day to celebrate the value of life and to send a strong message to decision makers.
If you look at what's going on in Maine right now, probably if you talk about life or abortion, you get pretty close opinions on both sides, and yet our government, which also is actually not very much different in numbers, is definitely advocating for one side.
Pregnancy resource centers, shelters for women, and pro-life organizations from around the state were also at that 4-hour event.
All right, the time now is 8:10. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, big changes are coming for people who want to use cash to enter Acadia National Park. We'll have the details on the new fee system.
But first, another check of that weather forecast. Not a bad day ahead today. We'll see clouds and sun, maybe some sprinkles and flurries too. Highs around 46 degrees. Partly cloudy with some snow late tonight, lows dropping down to the mid-20s. Tomorrow, a little snow in the morning, otherwise a partly cloudy day with highs near 43. We'll be right back.
Tell the insurance company you mean business. Call Joe Bornstein, right now.
Call the firm that has been getting justice for Mainers for 50 years. If you've been injured in an accident, call Joe.
Derek!
Hey, Mom, I need to lay low for a couple days. There's too much heat on this car.
Too much heat?
I only paid for a Hyundai Tucson.
Ruth! Listen, Jenna, I need to lay low for a few days. Why?
Deal so right, it almost feels wrong. The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Lease an all-wheel drive Hyundai Tucson for $259 a month today.
It's Markdown Mania at the Furniture Gallery, and the deals are madness. Relax in this cozy recliner. Choose tan, gray, or brown for only $298. Grab a sofa chaise for just $598. Upgrade your living room with a sofa and love seat set, now just $798. Thought Living mattresses are now priced king size for a queen price. Plus, save up to 70% on in-stock clearance items. Hurry into the Furniture Gallery, shop our Maine family-owned business, and save money. The Furniture Gallery.
There was no salt or sand.
And because of that, I slipped and fell.
You need a powerful law firm to go after every dollar you may deserve.
I needed to protect my rights.
Call Joe, the law offices of Joe Bornstein.
I never thought I'd get that much.
He's so cute, and I feel the chemistry already.
America has fallen in love with these farmers.
We hit the jackpot, y'all.
Fox Tonight.
Oh my gosh, is that the house?
The ladies head down to the farms.
Having 5 women move in is going to be pretty weird.
They're not gonna attack me.
If they do, we'll make some chicken soup.
But not everyone is ready to get down.
I certainly thought this was going a different way.
An all-new Farmer Wants a Wife, tonight on Fox.
The Augusta Fire Department has planned a conference to start a conversation about mental health within Maine public safety departments. The conference is scheduled for April 9th and 8th at the Augusta Civic Center and will feature keynote speakers, classes, wellness programs, and more. Augusta Fire Department Deputy Chief Stephen Leach says his goal is to get every public safety department in Maine to start their own peer support program.
Back when I started a few years ago, it was something that you just didn't talk about. It was suppressed, and you know, it was suck it up. You know, you're going to deal with this the rest of your career, so just, you know, get used to it. Those days are over. We can't expect people to bottle up the types of trauma that we see on a regular basis.
For more information and to register for the conference, head to theresilientresponder.com.
Well, changes are coming to Acadia National Park. After April 15th, visitors will no longer be able to pay entrance fees with cash. They will accept mobile payments, credit cards, or debit cards. A statement says cash sales represent less than 5% of in-person sales in the park. And according to the statement, Acadia's rangers spend up to 8.5 hours each day documenting, reporting, and transferring cash receipts. It says moving to a cashless system will reduce the amount of time park staff spend managing cash and increase their availability to collect fees which in turn will increase the amount of fee revenue available to support critical projects and visitor services.
The Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife has named the Game Warden of the Year. Investigator Ethan Buck was honored at an annual awards ceremony. Officials say Buck is well known for his willingness to assist others with complex cases and his work ethic. Based in Sydney, Buck has also cracked a number of cases, including a hunting incident in Liberty where he successfully obtained confessions regarding the shooter who was a convicted felon. He's also a member of the Warden Service dive team and a member of the Coast Guard. The Warden Service also honored Sergeant Justin Fowley as the Supervisor of the Year and named retired Sergeant Dennis McIntosh as the 2025 Legendary Warden.
Congratulations to all three men.
Absolutely. All right, the time now is 8:15. After the break, Maine Border Patrol agents have reported a slight increase in apprehensions. We'll get a behind-the-scenes look at their work.
Plus, a Tufts University grad student was detained by masked men yesterday. We'll hear from her lawyer about why, coming up on Good Morning Maine.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
Here at Twin City Tire and Service, you will be working with industry professionals. We have ASE certified master technicians and certified tire and lube technicians. If we need your vehicle for a duration of time, we offer a complimentary shuttle service and can even offer a loaner vehicle. Being a client at Twin City Tire and Service means that we will treat you right. This includes a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on mechanical repairs. We also provide you with 1 year of complimentary roadside assistance. Come see us today at Twin City Tire and Service in Brewer.
Chevy makes affordable vehicles that help you enjoy life. Get more for less in the Chevy Trax. Maximize every mile in the all-electric Equinox. And power through with the capable Colorado. Enjoy endless possibilities and your new Chevy.
Get the versatile 2025 Trax, starting at $21,795. Visit your Maine Chevy dealers.
I got hurt by a big truck. Why did I call the twos? Because life-changing injuries deserve life-changing money, and I'll fight to get it for you. We got a client who broke multiple bones in a commercial vehicle accident, $700,000. Another client had a brain injury, and we got them $1.15 million. If you get hurt by a big truck, call the twos. We win for you.
Hurt by a big truck, call the twos. We win for you.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
U.S. Border Patrol officials offered members of the local media a behind-the-scene looks at its day-to-day operations.
Our Doug Banks takes us to the Canadian border.
On Wednesday, officials with the United States Border Patrol Holton sector pulled back the curtains to reveal more about how they work. Their tour began at the U.S. Border Patrol station in Baileyville, which featured a behind-the-scenes look into its holding cells, vehicles, and K-9 unit. Officials also spoke about trends they've seen. For example, they've reported a 14% increase in apprehensions in its Holton sector, with cross-border apprehensions decreasing at ports of entry. They attribute that decrease to their agents and new infrastructure.
One of the solutions that we came up with was to install concrete vehicle barricades at places that historically saw a high level of vehicle crossings between the ports of entry.
They also credit technology, flying their drone over the town of Calais to display how Canada sits just on the other side of the St. Croix River.
This provides the benefit of seeing what we have before we have agents move in and conduct a law enforcement response.
We then travel down Route 1 into Eastport, where 7 to 8 vessel commanders help monitor the two countries' borders.
Maine Marine Patrol, U.S. Coast Guard, and the locals and counties are huge for us. It's a force multiplier because there's a lot of water, and the law enforcement saturation on the water is pretty slim compared to, say, downtown Portland or downtown Portsmouth or something along those lines.
In Eastport, Doug Banks, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
They've got a big job.
I know, they're busier than ever right now. Okay, the time now is 8:19.
Let's get a full look at that weather forecast.
Alrighty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. We have a small craft advisory up along the coast, and that will expire at 2 o'clock Friday afternoon. We will be watching for some active surf, and we're seeing a little bit of that this morning. We're right around 3 to 4 feet according to the buoys. Higher further out towards sea at around 5 feet, and even 7 feet as you head even further to the east. But meanwhile, this morning we've had a little bit of snow passing through, nothing too ridiculous. If any accumulations have occurred, it has not been a big deal. The system is currently moving away, and we'll watch for a little bit more energy that will get going later this afternoon. More on that in a second, but otherwise a little bit of action off toward our west and a little bit more action across parts of the Midwest as well this morning. But meanwhile for us, again, we're going to push the snow out of here, clear out for a bit too, but notice a few sprinkles and flurries during the afternoon period. Becoming mostly clear for a while tonight, then some clouds and even a few snow showers as we head towards Friday morning. We'll get those out of here. And then clearing out for a bit, some clouds and sunshine mixed in overall, and that will be the theme by Friday evening. And then by Saturday morning, some more clouds begin to move in. Another system that we need to keep an eye on as well. But for tonight, as we watch for some snowfall, not a lot, maybe an inch further off towards the north, and hardly anything as you head farther down toward the south. But meanwhile, there's that next system. Here's the first one here that's moving in later on tonight into Friday morning. We'll push that through. And then that next system, we're kind of right on the line there for some snowfall, maybe even a wintry mix in a couple of cases, but for the most part, you will be snow as we head towards your Saturday. By Saturday night, again, we'll clear out for a bit, but notice we push in that wintry mix as we head towards early Monday morning, eventually transitioning to all rain as temperatures begin to warm up. We'll keep an eye on this through the weekend. But for now, again, some gusty winds reaching up to about 20 miles per hour at times today. We'll calm down for a bit later on tonight. More gusty winds up to 30 miles per hour as we head towards your Friday. For today, we have mid-40s, partly cloudy, some sprinkles and flurries on the way, and the northwest wind at about 20 miles per hour. Later on tonight, middle 20s, partly cloudy, some snow showers developing late with the wind overall looking nice and calm. Then tomorrow, Friday, lower 40s, partly cloudy, some morning snow showers possible. Northwest wind at about 25 miles per hour. And let's check out your extended forecast. More snow opportunities as we head towards your Saturday with highs in the mid-30s. A wintry mix opportunity possible on Sunday. That could be rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow with highs in the middle 30s. And then that wintry mix will transition to all rain by your Monday with highs in the upper 40s.
We're here at US Cellular, Frost Days, where our customers get exclusive deals just for them. It's like we got our own special club. Should we show them?
Get $1,200 off any phone plus $500 off any tablet.
So the Ellington has this stunning double pedestal vase, nailhead detailing, and a removable leaf for just $12.99.
This looks just like the one we saw at the other store.
Only theirs is on sale. Wait, no, it's off sale. No, it's on sale. Off sale. On sale. Off sale.
Bob's is still hundreds less.
We don't do phony sales, just the everyday low prices you deserve.
When you get our lowest prices every day, there's only one thing to say. Oh, my Bob!
The Lucerne Inn and Ryan's Pub is world-renowned for beautiful dining with a delicious view. And start your Sundays with a meal to remember at our all-you-can-eat Sunday brunch. Every Sunday morning from 9 to 11:30 with award-winning dishes and discounts for seniors and veterans. Call to make your reservation. Whether it's a family gathering or a special celebration, our Sunday brunch is the perfect way to savor the weekend. Only at the Lucerne Inn. Beautiful dining with a delicious view.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
At
At US Cellular, you don't have to choose between a great phone and the right phone plan for you. You can get 4 free phones of your choice and 4 lines for just $90.
That's like us not having to choose between tickets to wrestling or that puppet musical.
Because you get both. U.S. Cellular, built for.
Democrats want national security officials to resign and an investigation into their use of Signal to discuss plans for a strike in Yemen. President Trump and other key leaders took tough questions on Wednesday. Fox's Connor Hansen has more.
I think it's a witch hunt. I wasn't involved with it. I wasn't there.
Taking questions in the Oval Office, President Trump tried to shift the focus to what he calls a successful strike on the Houthis. But questions are mounting over how a journalist was added to a group chat where top officials discussed planning details. Secretary of State Marco Rubio broke his silence on the leak.
I think the Pentagon's made it clear that nothing on there would have endangered the lives or the mission, and the mission's been very successful.
Administration officials are sticking to their stance that nothing classified was shared in the chat. Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg released more messages, including one from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth laying out specific timing, weapons, and targets.
Team update is to provide updates in real time, general updates in real time, keep everybody informed. That's what I did.
Democrats disagree, saying the leak could have put troops at risk, and some are demanding an investigation into how the mistake was made.
Leader Jeffries also sent a letter to the president yesterday calling for Pete Hegseth to be fired immediately.
I agree he should be fired.
President Trump suggested the Signal app could be a defective platform. The company put out a statement defending itself, claiming to be the, quote, gold standard for private, secure communications. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
President Trump has announced new 25% tariffs on all imported vehicles, escalating a trade war with longtime allies. The White House vows the move will strengthen American production long term. ABC's Christian Cordero is in Washington with the details.
This morning, an escalating trade war is fueling economic uncertainty. Stocks dipping yet again as President Trump announced new 25% tariffs on automobile imports.
We started off with a 2.5% base, which is what we were at, and we go to 25%.
The tariffs will apply to any foreign-made vehicle beginning April 3rd and any foreign-made auto part beginning about a month later.
We know there's going to be major repercussions for the entire industry.
Applying to millions of vehicles purchased in the U.S. per year. The White House notes of the 16 million cars purchased in the U.S. last year, only about 4 million were assembled in the U.S. with American-made parts. The immediate impact is set to disrupt our relationships with longtime trading partners like Germany and Japan, which has asked the White House to not be included in the tariffs. Plus Canada and Mexico, both intertwined in the automobile supply chain that employs more than 1 million U.S. workers.
You know, this will hurt us, but through this period, by being together, we will emerge stronger.
For consumers, the tariffs are expected to drive new and used car prices up across the board, imported or not.
I could easily see a few $1,000s, but you know, because it is a percentage of the price, you know, easily $10K is not unforeseen, right? This is something in which you're going to have those new vehicle prices start to go up and up. The incentives will start to get more diminished.
Experts also warn that insurance rates could climb higher as the cost to repair cars becomes more expensive. The new tariffs are expected to prompt retaliatory tariffs from China, the EU, and Canada. Christian Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Now the news, a Tufts University international grad student is awaiting her fate after being detained by federal agents in Massachusetts. A lawyer for 30-year-old Turkish national Rameysa Öztürk says she was approached by agents on Tuesday and arrested as she left her off-campus apartment in Somerville. Surveillance video shows 6 people with face masks taking Öztürk's phone as she yelled and then handcuffed her. The Department of Homeland Security released a statement on Wednesday saying in part that DHS and ICE investigations found Öztürk engaged in activities in support of Hamas adding glorifying and supporting terrorists who kill Americans is grounds for visa issuance to be terminated. Ozturk's attorney says she has a valid F1 visa status as a PhD student. A federal judge ordered the doctoral student not to be moved out of Massachusetts and gave ICE until Friday to respond.
A federal agency halts a service which could impact thousands of migrants in the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security says it's pausing the review of green card applications for some refugees and asylum seekers. The order was issued by the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, also known as the USCIS, and will affect refugees who were given the green light to come to the U.S. and people who were permitted asylum in court. The DHS says it will conduct additional screening on individuals who are seeking permanent residency in the United States. The extensive vetting's goal is to recognize any fraud, public safety, or national security concerns. This comes after President Trump signed executive orders for his administration to screen any immigrant who wants to enter or is already in the country. And coming up on the second half of the newscast, the movie plunged into controversy after its cinematographer was shot and killed on set, will now be released in theaters. We'll get a preview of Rust in our Showbiz segment.
That and your full weather forecast coming up on Good Morning Maine.
Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda from the Kelley Blue Book Best Value brand. Buy online, reserve from select dealers, or hurry into your local Honda dealer today.
Rowell's Garage has been serving customers in the greater Dover-Foxcroft region since 1946. Our goal is not just selling you a vehicle, but also giving you quality service to maintain your vehicle at peak performance. Browse our inventory online or in person. Whether it's a car, truck, or SUV, we can put you in the vehicle that is right for you. Sales, service, and parts. Rowell's Garage. Doing business the right way every day.
Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda from the Kelley Blue Book Best Value brand. Buy online, reserve from select dealers, or hurry into your local Honda dealer today.
You're watching Fox 22, Bangor.
Welcome back, everyone. Today is Thursday, March 27th, 2025. It's also Major League Baseball opening day.
Definitely a sign of spring for sports fans.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing more exciting for baseball fans than opening day at the ballpark. You may notice fans wearing their team's hat or jerseys today, whether they make it to the stadium or not. This season is especially exciting because it will mark the first time since 1968 that all teams begin play in the U.S. on the same day, kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Yeah.
The Boston Red Sox will open their season this afternoon with an away game against the Texas Rangers.
Good luck to the Sox this season. Well, on this day in history, back in 1775, future President Thomas Jefferson was elected to the Second Continental Congress. In 1794, Congress approved the act to provide naval armament of 6 armed ships, which provided the foundation of the permanent U.S. Navy. In 1912, Japanese cherry trees were planted along the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. A gift from Japan, the first 2 cherry trees were planted by Helen Taft, the wife of President William Taft, and by Viscountess Chinda, the wife of the Japanese ambassador. They were among a batch of 3,020 specimens that were taken from a famous collection outside of Tokyo. Just beautiful.
That photo doesn't even look real. It's beautiful. In 1929, President Herbert Hoover had the first telephone installed in the Oval Office. Telephones and a switchboard had actually been in the White House all the way back since 1878, but the president had to enter the foyer if he wanted to place a call. In 1964, Alaska was hit by a magnitude 9.2 earthquake, sparking tsunamis that together claimed over 130 lives. It's still the strongest quake on record in North America. In 1975, construction began on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. The 800-mile pipeline was completed just over 2 years later. In 1979, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that police cannot stop cars just to check the driver and their registration.
They need a reason to do so.
Yeah, probable cause comes in all sorts of forms, of course. In 2005, ABC debuted the first season of Grey's Anatomy.
Still going today. I think it's their 21st season this year.
I know, a lot of folks still like it a lot,
is
too.
McDreamy still part of it?
Oh, I don't know.
I haven't watched it in years.
I
But
don't know.
I think, what's her name? Pompeo is still part of it.
I have never watched this. My favorite show was Bones growing up. That was a Fox show. It's a little different. It's doctors that deal with people after death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Meredith Grey. See, isn't that it? I watched it a few times way back when.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
All right, moving on now. Today's birthdays include pop superstar Mariah Carey, who is 56. Actress Brenda Song is 37.
Who is Meredith Grey?
And
is that on The Office?
That's the name of the doctor she plays. Yeah. What's her name?
On what show? Not on my
Hold
show.
on. Yeah, she's on Grey's Anatomy. I'm getting it in my
I
ear.
was like, are you talking about my show, Craig?
Yeah, we're not talking about, we're not talking about your bones. All right. And finally, director Quentin Tarantino is 62. So happy birthday.
I was
to
like,
them.
do I not know the name of my favorite person in my favorite show?
It's just the name of a character. That's Grey's Anatomy is based on Meredith Grey.
Oh yeah, she's like she's the protagonist.
Yeah. Pompeo is the actress's name. But
they're good.
So
They're
anywho.
good. Okay.
I digress.
I digress too.
Yeah.
I know. I threw you off course.
It's okay.
Hey, though, it looks like we've had kind of a messy week. Devin is prone to forecasting what can happen. So if there is a chance of precipitation, he'll have it in there, even if the sun is actually out right now.
Today looks like it's going to be a mixture of sun and clouds, and then maybe some snow later on today.
Yes. Yep. So let's get a look at that forecast with Devin Biggs.
And thank you very much, Craig and Emma. We've made it to Thursday. Low temperatures so far this morning. Not too bad, falling to the 30s for most of us. A few 20s farther off towards the north. But meanwhile, we do have some advisories being issued. This is a small craft advisory up along the coast, and that will expire at 2 p.m. as we head towards your Friday. Meanwhile, we've had some snow passing through overnight. If any accumulations have occurred, it's been rather minimal, as all this have been moving away, and we will see a good amount of sunshine, some clouds today too, and a few sprinkles and flurries cannot be ruled out overall. Meanwhile, we can see a little bit of activity off toward the west, and again, a little bit of energy left over will allow some sprinkles and flurries to develop today, and we'll see those during the afternoon period. Overnight will be clear for a bit, but more snow showers possible as we head towards Friday morning. Meanwhile, some gusty winds today reaching up to about 20, maybe 25 miles per hour at times. We'll back off for a bit. More gusty winds on the way as we head towards Friday afternoon, up to 30 miles per hour in a few cases. For today, mid-40s, partly cloudy, some sprinkles and flurries possible. Northwest wind at about 20 miles per hour. Later on tonight, mid-20s, partly cloudy, some snow showers late, with the wind overall looking nice and calm. Your hourly forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period becoming partly to even mostly cloudy at times. Again, some sprinkles and flurries possible for the afternoon. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Emma.
Thank you, Devin. Now for the latest on what's happening in Hollywood.
Here's ABC's Zareen Shah.
The only order that exists in this world is the order we impose.
Years after the fatal shooting of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, the trailer for the movie she was working on, Rust, is now out. The star of the Western, Alec Baldwin, was charged with involuntary manslaughter after a prop gun he was handling went off, killing Hutchins. Those charges were dismissed last year. Rust will be in theaters May 2nd. Lady Gaga is going on tour, celebrating the release of her latest album, Mayhem. It's the pop star's first arena tour since 2018, with shows set to kick off in Mexico City at the end of April. Lady Gaga is also set to headline Coachella next month.
Let's split up and search for clues.
He stole my thing that I say.
Scooby-Doo is getting the live-action treatment again, this time as an 8-episode series on Netflix. The show will reportedly delve into how Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Shaggy teamed up with the mystery-solving Great Dane. It'll be the first time we've seen mystery incorporated in live action since the movie Scooby-Doo, Monsters Unleashed more than 20 years ago. She's been dubbed the Songbird Supreme by Guinness World Records for her vocal range, and today, Mariah Carey is celebrating a birthday. The 5-time Grammy winner turns 56. And that's what's happening in Hollywood. Zoreen Shah, ABC News Los Angeles.
My dad never liked Mariah Carey. He
Really?
made fun of her the entire time I grew up, and I love Mariah Carey now. So I always think it's funny when I see her and I see what a diva she is, and I'm like, she's doing
I was
great.
a big fan when she first came out, had that big smash hit.
Yeah.
She is quite the diva, though.
It's the diva-ness that my dad was kind of like, but that's exactly why I like her.
I think I'm with your dad there.
Yes.
I appreciate her talent, but...
Right,
Yeah.
right. Chill out, lady. But happy birthday. Happy birthday.
We do hope she has a good birthday.
Yes, yes. Okay, right after the break, Tyler Cruz will have our sports updates.
We'll also meet our pet of the week. Don't go away.
At Ellsworth IV Infusion and Wellness, we are here to help you look and feel your best, inside and out. Jumpstart your health journey with medical weight loss and rejuvenate your wellness with nutritional IV infusions. Renew your skin with facials or relax with soothing massage therapy.
All across our state, American-made clean energy has created over 2,400 good-paying jobs while lowering energy costs for Mainers. Farmers across the state are earning millions in income through long-term land leases from clean energy projects. Homegrown power from wind and solar are driving American energy dominance and powering our future. Maine wins with clean energy. Call Senator Collins and thank her for supporting an all-of-the-above energy strategy that creates jobs in our state.
I had a slip and fall accident. I wasn't sure what to do. Joe Bornstein's office handled everything. The experience was much better than what I expected. They were very professional and responsive to all my questions and concerns. I highly recommend the law offices of Joe Bornstein. Over 25,000 victories for injured Mainers just like me. If you've been injured in an accident, call Joe. It's that easy. Tell him you mean business.
Call Joe today for a free case evaluation. There's never a fee unless you win.
At Spectrum, we believe every day unlocks unlimited possibilities to bring you closer to the people and places you love. Spectrum transforms your gaming experience into a galaxy of adventures. And with the fastest, most reliable internet, you're always front row to the entertainment you love, no matter where you are. Get Spectrum Internet Premier for $30 per month when bundled plus a 3-year price guarantee. Call 1-833-440-0029. Spectrum Internet puts streaming live TV, sports, and popular apps all at your fingertips.
At Ellsworth IV Infusion and Wellness, we are here to help you look and feel your best, inside and out. Jumpstart your health journey with medical weight loss and rejuvenate your wellness with nutritional IV infusions. Renew your skin with facials or relax with soothing massage therapy.
UFL kickoff weekend is here. San Antonio locks horns with Arlington. Saturday 4 Eastern on Fox.
Welcome back in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. Let's hit the gridiron. Maine football buckled up their helmets, and they hit the field Wednesday for the first time in 2025. Our Jack Webb has more.
What a great day to be out here. Sunny and spring ball, the first day of spring ball. Couldn't ask for a better day.
The first signs of spring in Orono. Sun shining, snow melting, and pads popping at Alphonse Stadium.
It's super joyful, man. Like, I get so excited, I can't even explain it, man.
Just seeing the energy, seeing the juice, the excitement when we all made plays, that was a great thing to see.
It was a well-deserved sunny day for spring ball practice number 1 as the Black Bears just wrapped up a long winter in the weight room.
We've been working, we had a really great 8 weeks of winter, and it was just like great vibes all around, guys pushing themselves and holding each other accountable.
A lot of young guys that have made a lot of growth this winter in the weight room, so just to see that on the field, see their maturity, see them continue to get better is the fun part of coaching.
The offseason is all about getting better, and this stretch of 15 spring practices is a huge step in the team's progression.
We're going every day, at least 5 to 6 days a week in the mornings, and if we're not practicing, then we're meeting, we're walking through. We really approach it like we're in season in terms of installs. But definitely with more of a focus on ourselves.
With no opponent on the horizon, the Black Bears get to take this month on the field and focus on fundamentals along with trying to develop each player's skill set.
Very important, just developing our guys, getting guys comfortable with the playbook. So, when summer and camp come, we hit the ground running, we're flying.
Improving our depth, so we have more trust as a staff, as teammates, in who can go in and perform for us, and that has to be there, and who our playmakers are going to be. Because, why do we talk about the process? Why do we talk about all these different areas of focusing on ourselves? It's because we want to win.
From Orono, Jack Webb, ABC 7, Fox 22 Sports.
Thank you for that, Jack. Let's go to the basketball court now. The Sweet 16 tips off on Thursday, and Cooper Flagg and the Duke Blue Devils have the late tip taking on the Arizona Wildcats at 9:30. The winner moves on to Saturday's Elite Eight against either BYU or the Alabama Crimson Tide. The Blue Devils have rolled through the tournament so far, winning both games by over 20 points, and Newport native Cooper Flagg has been at the center of it all. He was just named the Oscar Robertson Player of the Year, and he's a favorite for the Naismith Player of the Year award too, as well as the Wooden Award. Cooper's dad, Ralph Flagg, says the journey has been awesome, but for Coop, it's all about ball.
You know, once another one pops up, you're like, well, there's other good players. He may not get it, and we don't really put a ton of stock into those awards, But I mean, it's great that he won them, and he deserves them. But what he cares about is basketball, and his team come first. So.
All right, wishing him luck. Let's go to the baseball diamond now. The snow is off the diamond, and we are playing ball at Mahaney in Orono. The Husson Eagles taking the trip up to Orono to take on the UMaine Black Bears. We'll pick it up in the first inning. Eagles up after a Jackson Curtis homer, and Old Town grad Tanner Evans flashing the leather, or the bare hand at shortstop makes a very nice play. Eagles up 3-0 after one. Same score next inning, Eagles with 2 runners on, but Jack Donlin gets the ground out to third, and the Black Bears turn 2 to retire the side. In the third, runner on for Drew Reynolds, and he crushes this ball deep to right field. That is over everything and gone. Maine down 1 now. The score is 3-2. 4-2 now. Jackson Curtis at the dish for Husson, and again, he rips this ball into the corner and left field in the blind spot. That's a 2 RBI double. Curtis with a historic day. He hits for the second cycle in program history, and Husson gets the win over Maine 12-9. Big win for the Eagles. Staying on the baseball diamond on Thursday, it all begins for the Boston Red Sox. The Sox opening up the regular season on the road against the Texas Rangers. The Red Sox closing out spring training with 2 wins over the Sultanes de Monterrey in Mexico on Monday and Tuesday. Manager Alex Cora announcing that star infielder Rafael Devers will be the full-time designated hitter this year. Also announced rookie phenom and top prospect Kristen Campbell will make the opening day roster and likely be the team's starting second baseman. Campbell homered on Tuesday. He's the first of the big 3 between he, Marcelo Meyer, and Roman Anthony to make the big league club. They're going to be patient with the process, but Cora says it just speaks to the player development the Red Sox have.
He's a mature kid. He's a physical kid. I think we've been through this dance before. If you take a look at what we have done since I got here, we have developed players at the big league level, and they're really good at what they do now. We just got to be patient. There's going to be some good things, some tough things, and some ugly things, but we can live with it.
Really looking forward to the season. Finally, we couldn't not talk about Maine hockey. The Black Bears hitting the road for Pennsylvania on Thursday morning for the first round of the NCAA tournament. Maine is departing the university at 8:45 a.m. and fans are invited to flock to Alfond Arena to send the Black Bears off. The event will be at the Branch Road entrance of Alfond Arena. The Black Bears are in action for the first round Friday at 8:30 p.m. against Penn State, the host squad, and if they win, they play the winner of UConn and Quinnipiac for the regional championship on Sunday. The time for Sunday's game is TBD. All right, that is all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
At Old Town Redemption Center, we are always ready to help with any fundraisers or bottle drives. We are here to help our community. Like and follow us on Facebook for upcoming weekly holiday giveaways and our monthly $100 drawing.
When Maine Paving wants to know the local forecast, they log on to foxbangor.com. Maine Paving provides outstanding paving and seal coating services to eastern and central Maine. Currently booking for the 2025 season. Call today for a free estimate.
TurboTax Free Edition. 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition.
John Brown first opened his own appliance store in Ellsworth in 1976. With his gift of storytelling, a strong work ethic, and a philosophy of putting others first, John and his wife and children saw the business prosper and grow. Today's 3rd and 4th generation of family and their entire team continue to follow the example set by their grandparents and parents. Brown Appliance and Mattress, High Street, Ellsworth, a family tradition of quality, value, and customer service that always puts you first. We've got a 100-year-old company here, and it's because of the service, the quality, and the experience. It gets done right.
I think we've been doing it for so long. The only thing that we do, that when we walk into a room, we automatically know how to treat that window. We can take any product that the customer's looking for and make it work in just about any situation that they present us with. So
There's no reason to be overwhelmed. We can help you through it.
we're not going anywhere. We've been around for 100 years.
At Old Town Redemption Center, we are always ready to help with any fundraisers or bottle drives. We are here to help our community. Like and follow us on Facebook for upcoming weekly holiday giveaways and our monthly $100 drawing.
Pet of the Week, brought to you by First National Bank. Are you ready to turn your dreams into reality? Look no further than First National Bank, your genuine Maine community bank.
Welcome back to Good Morning Maine. We're here with Gabby from the Bangor Humane Society, and I have Sandra here hanging out in my lap. She's kind of made a little nest of herself.
She looks very content
she's
there.
She's hiding a little bit. She can't tell if she wants to move, but she's also just kind of cuddling a little bit, but she's hanging out. Oh,
she's a sweet
oh,
girl.
now we're
getting into it now.
Flexible cuddling.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Tell us about this little kitty.
This is Sandra. She is 3 years old. She came to us as a stray, so we're not too sure of where she came from or what she was up to out there.
Yep.
But Sandra does have a grade 4 heart murmur, which is a pretty large heart murmur for a cat. She will need a vet relationship going into her next home to get yearly checkups and possibly more than yearly. So if you're interested in her, definitely plan on having a vet around just in case.
How does that affect a cat? I mean, she looks like a normal cat to me.
Yeah.
So she, a lot of cats don't present a lot of symptoms, but it can be caused by underlying things, and it can even be caused as things like anxiety. So there's just so many varying things, and that's why it's important to take your cat to the vet in the first place. You might not even know.
Anxiety? No.
She's a real sweet girl.
Yeah.
So the vet will that's why they listen to their heart, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the grade 4 is loud enough that a vet can hear it pretty immediately. So it's pretty easy to tell.
Could that shorten her life? Is that a concern, or the right person probably wouldn't worry about that,
Right, yeah. It can shorten a cat's life if the underlying disease or condition is causing that, but most of the time, cats with heart murmurs can live as long as other cats, just with the right treatment and right care and making sure that owners are observing correctly and making sure they're watching for the right signs and symptoms.
Plenty of people have heart murmurs too, and they live long, fulfilling lives, and they just
Absolutely.
go to the doctor. Just like you guys got to go to the doctor too. She's like, I need to go to the vet.
I think she likes you, Emma.
I know, I really like her. You can see how red my hands are. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. How are things at the Humane Society? Busy time over there?
Definitely busy.
Yeah.
We just had a lot of dogs go up for adoption this morning. So we have pretty much one of everything right now. If you're looking to adopt a dog, please stop by. We have a whole bunch of guys going on.
But it was kitten season, so we were almost expecting there to be like a full house of kittens. But
we're getting there.
You are?
It's right around the corner,
Oh,
yeah.
it's not there yet. Okay, right.
So right now is the time that cats are getting pregnant and getting ready to give birth. So in about 8 weeks, we'll be having a whole lot of kittens out there and ready for adoption. Just gotta wait until they're old enough and of weight for surgery. So.
Yeah, busy time for you guys. Do you guys need anything? Are you out of stock of anything in the back rooms, or pretty good right now?
Doing good right now. We're always accepting dog toys. We go through them like candy. The dogs love to shred them and play with them. So we go through a whole bunch, but dog toys, bedding donations, wet cat food, we're always accepting that.
Nice. Yep, very generous.
And you rely on volunteers too.
Yes.
They come in and help things like walking the dogs. That's a great thing. I know my teenage daughter did it for a while.
Yep.
So you're always looking for help.
And do you get to, go ahead.
Walking the dogs, cleaning kennels, hanging out with small animals, socializing animals, even doing the dirty work, doing laundry, dishes, everything. We can always put somebody to work.
Look at this beautiful kitty.
You can hang out with somebody like this. I grew up doing the dishes with my mom at Bangor Humane Society. I have really fond memories. Even though it's like gross, it's just like, it's the dishes.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, we're helping somebody and we're just doing a basic chore that's really easy. So.
It is. And it's a huge help too. It clears up staff so we can do more one-on-one time with the animals that require it from specific staff members or requiring certain medical treatment. It really helps in all ways.
Yeah.
Well, as always, we thank you for coming in. Hopefully we can find a new home for this beautiful little girl here.
Thank you, Sandra. You are so pretty. I love this coat. This tiger coat gets me every time.
She's so pretty.
You're so pretty and sweet.
Now we're going to send it back over to Devin for another look at your forecast.
Alrighty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. We have a small craft advisory up along the coast, and that will expire at 2 o'clock Friday afternoon. We will be watching for some active surf, and we're seeing a little bit of that this morning. We're right around 3 to 4 feet according to the buoys. Higher further out towards sea at around 5 feet, and even 7 feet as you head even further to the east. But meanwhile, this morning we've had a little bit of snow passing through, nothing too ridiculous. If any accumulations have occurred, it has not been a big deal. The system is currently moving away, and we'll watch for a little bit more energy that will get going later this afternoon. More on that in a second, but otherwise a little bit of action off toward our west and a little bit more action across parts of the Midwest as well this morning. But meanwhile for us, again, we're going to push the snow out of here, clear out for a bit too, but notice a few sprinkles and flurries during the afternoon period. Becoming mostly clear for a while tonight, then some clouds and even a few snow showers as we head towards Friday morning. We'll get those out of here. And then clearing out for a bit, some clouds and sunshine mixed in overall, and that'll be the theme by Friday evening. And then by Saturday morning, some more clouds begin to move in. Another system that we need to keep an eye on as well. But for tonight, as we watch for some snowfall, not a lot, maybe an inch further off towards the north, and hardly anything as you head farther down toward the south. But meanwhile, there's that next system. Here's the first one here that's moving in later on tonight into Friday morning. We'll push that through. And then that next system, we're kind of right on the line there for some snowfall, maybe even a wintry mix in a couple of cases, but for the most part, it will be snow as we head towards your Saturday. By Saturday night, again, we'll clear out for a bit, but notice we push in that wintry mix as we head towards early Monday morning, eventually transitioning to all rain as temperatures begin to warm up. We'll keep an eye on this through the weekend. But for now, again, some gusty winds reaching up to about 20 miles per hour at times today. We'll calm down for a bit later on tonight. More gusty winds up to 30 miles per hour as we head towards your Friday. For today, we have mid-40s, partly cloudy, some sprinkles and flurries on the way, and the northwest wind at about 20 miles per hour. Later on tonight, middle 20s, partly cloudy, some snow showers developing late with the wind overall looking nice and calm. Then tomorrow, Friday, lower 40s, partly cloudy, some morning snow showers possible, northwest wind at about 25 miles per hour. And let's check out your extended forecast. More snow opportunities as we head towards your Saturday with highs in the mid-30s. A wintry mix opportunity possible on Sunday. That could be rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow with highs in the middle 30s. And then that wintry mix will transition to all rain by your Monday with highs in the upper 40s.
Looking for reliable tree care? Cousins Tree Service offers tree removals, pruning, maintenance, and more. Staffed with a licensed and insured arborist, we prioritize safety and customer satisfaction. Contact the team at Cousins Tree Service for professional tree solutions.
Great Scott! This is Green Bear 420 in 2010. What kind of trip is this? I gotta get back to 2023. Wait, it's 2015. So much has changed. In 2023, we had a lot more glass, t-shirts, and novelties. It's gonna take a bolt of lightning to get me home. Finally, home at last. Now Green Bear 420, Green Bear Green Care is bigger and better than ever. To be continued.
Why should your new floor come from Carpet One? Because we're passionate about the spaces our neighbors call home. We're part of your community, and we're also part of the world's largest cooperative of independently owned and operated flooring stores. So you can be sure you'll get great selection and outstanding value with every installation. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, tile, or luxury vinyl, our experts take the guesswork out of choosing the right floor. We're your local Carpet One Floor and Home, the one store for your perfect floor.
Hey, 25 words or less superfans. Our super fan contest has returned.
You can do it!
You'll be on air with Meredith, the celebs, correct, and the contestants. Enter to win at 25words.com.
I'm Amy K! Wow!
Good luck and keep your streak alive.
You just made $1,000 for Nikki at home. Thank you so much!
The lucky superfans will be chosen at random. If the contestants win $10,000,
you did it!
You win $1,000. Enter now.
Looking for reliable tree care? Cousins Tree Service offers tree removals, pruning, maintenance, and more. Staffed with a licensed and insured arborist, we prioritize safety and customer satisfaction. Contact the team at Cousins Tree Service for professional tree solutions.
Well, finally now, This Maine Coon cat has made it into the Guinness World Records book for having the longest tail. Mr. Pugsley Adams was awarded the Guinness World Record on Wednesday for his whopping 18.5-inch tail. The 2-year-old Maine Coon cat isn't even fully grown yet. He lives in Minnesota with the Cameron family and their 3 other Maine Coon cats. Pugsley's tail caught the attention of the vets at his first visit for obvious reasons. 6 months later, the Cameron family looked into the current record and found that their cat had it beat. Maine Coon cats are the largest domestic cat breed. It usually takes 4 to 5 years for them to reach their full size. Look at those fluffy little beasts.
Yeah, they're so pretty, huh?
I love the little tufts of fur on their ears. That's one of my favorite parts. Oh, they look like wild animals.
Happy little house there.
Yep. Okay, it does look like we're running out of time. If you missed anything, you can head to foxbangor.com. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow bright and early on ABC 7 and Fox 22 at 6 a.m.
Friday.
I know, right?
It's on the way. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We hope you have a wonderful day.
Today on 25 Words or Less, he's got all the swagger and confidence of someone much more famous. It's Head Crash.